Ladies and gentlemen, may I kindly ask you to take your seats now? We would like to continue with the program. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, may I kindly ask you to take your seats now?
No, stay here. Stay here, Vladimir. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I've been standing on this stage for quite a few times before, and it's my privilege this afternoon, my enormous pleasure to welcome a fantastic panel to discuss the question of what we need to do for Ukraine, not to lose, but to win going forward. So with that, we don't want to lose time. We have exactly 1 hour. So I would want to invite my panelists to come up, and I'll introduce you all when you sit here. Please do join us here. Nancy, you should come here. Robert Habeck over there. Minister Kuleba and Prime Minister Frederiksen over here, and we're still waiting for the Italian foreign minister. Italians are sometimes a minute late or two, but they should, he'll be here in a second.
Yeah. It's incoming. My mic is on.
So, by way of getting started, before I forget to make a point I've been wanting to make all along, and I think Christoph Heusgen has already also made it at one point. If you or your friends have not had a chance yet to go to the basement, the downstairs of the Rosewood Hotel, which is the hotel next door, there is an extremely fascinating, gripping, mind-blowing exhibition about the 724 days of the war. 724, I think, is now the correct number. And it's a must-see. Go and take a look at it. You will come out of this exhibit with a different understanding of the horrors and the devastation of this war. I wish we could show some of the pictures right here to create the atmosphere that we need, the sense of urgency, etc. Second, just by way of a point or two of introduction, Europe, and of course now I'm speaking about Europe and not about America, Madam Speaker, but Europe has, to this day, not found a really effective way to create integration, which has been the original aim of Europe, integration in the area of defense and arms procurement. Now we're talking a lot about ammunition, etc. Instead, you know, when China or the United States look at Europe, we look like 27 mini-states. We're all small. Even Germany is a very small state, as seen from Beijing or from Washington, D.C. And we believe to this day that it is the right way to have 27 different arms procurement agencies and processes and specifications. I was recently at a helicopter production site in Germany where a large company produces helicopters. And I was impressed to see that there is a production line for the Spanish helicopter and one for the German helicopter and one for the British helicopter. And they're all different because the various national requirements, electronics and guidance systems, etc., are different. That is, as far as I'm concerned, not the way to produce maximum efficiency and the best possible outcome. In other words, there is a huge amount of room for improvement, certainly as far as the long term is concerned. Now, we need to talk not only about the long term, but we need to talk about the short term, because there is now a problem for Ukraine, and I'm sure Minister Kuleba will talk about it in just a minute. Before I offer the floor, let me just briefly again introduce the panel, and I start on my right. Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen, of course, doesn't need an introduction. Prime Minister of the Kingdom. Somebody talked about the Republic of Denmark or of Norway or so. The Kingdom of Denmark. You just got a new king, right? A couple of weeks ago. The former crown prince. Then we have, of course, Dmytro Kuleba, whom I've met many times, Foreign Minister of Ukraine, the only country in Europe that is currently at war, trying to defend itself. So thank you for being here. Dmitry, you have a very important role to play here. We're still missing Antonio Tajani, Foreign Minister of Italy, so I go to Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi, former Speaker of the House of Representatives for so many, many, many years. That certainly needs absolutely no introduction. You've been such a great friend of the Munich Security Conference when we came to Washington over the past decade or two. Thank you for being here again. We feel honored. And last not least, of course, Robert Habeck, the German Minister of Economics, and also responsible for climate, but that's not what we're talking about today. As I recall, I hope my memory serves me right, Robert Habeck was actually the first member of the German cabinet after the invasion to travel to Ukraine, the first or the second. You were certainly among the very first to find their way to Ukraine, and you've had an enormous role and interest in shaping our policies to the Ukrainian crisis, to the war. So let me just start by raising the issue which has already been discussed in a number of different formats over the last day or day and a half. And I'll start with you, Dmitry, because you're the person from the country affected. How desperate is the ammunition problem or the supply problem in the larger sense. Just give us a sense of proportion and of, dimension of this problem. Please, you have the floor.
No, do you have a mic?
It's exactly what happens with ammunition. Even when you have one, you still want to get another. There are two issues with ammunition. The first one is the quantity and sustainability of supply. And the situation today is bad. And it's not my political assessment, it's the message that we all receive from the front line. The president, his military advisors, I know people on the front line, officers, soldiers, who are texting and saying it's bad, we need more ammunition. And the second issue with ammunition is specific, but I appreciate Ambassador mentioned it. You see, when a decision is being made to deliver a certain amount of ammunition to Ukraine, of the ammunition of 155th caliber, we're extremely grateful for that. But when political decision is made, and these 10,000 rounds are being delivered to Ukraine, we tick a box politically, done. And we start looking for another 10,000 together with our partners, and Germany, the United States, Denmark, they were very helpful in this. But the trick is, because all of the howitzers and cannons of 155th caliber were produced specifically for certain type of this caliber, produced in a specific country, you cannot use the same round with every cannon of 155th caliber. So politicians tick the box and receive credits, get credited for delivering these tons of rounds. But on the ground, it becomes a massive technological problem to send the right round to the right cannon. And I'm not talking about further details about spare parts, maintenance. You say we provide Ukraine with 10 howitzers. We appreciate that, we need it, we're extremely grateful. But these howitzers go to real war, to real action. And they go out of order, and you need to maintain them. And you need sometimes a small detail that you cannot receive for months from another country because of regulatory, administrative, technical, or logistical issues. And all these days and weeks, this cannon is not working on the front line. So I think I want to make 2 points with regard to this. First, we need, all of us need much, much more artillery ammunition. Drones became a real kind of part of the game. They will solve some problems, but they will not replace artillery ammunition. And if you take the needs of Ukraine plus the needs of your stocks, we collectively have to produce much more. Ukraine has critically ramped up production of everything we can. We did it in the shortest period of time. And we ask you to do the same, to ramp up production, to invest into new production lines. This is not going to be over tomorrow. You have to accept the reality that there is a country in Europe called Russia that seeks war and more war. And you cannot pacify them, you cannot appease them. You have to invest in the production of weapons. And second, I think Europe has one of the best examples in the world of a multinational production of a world-class product. It's Airbus. Hundreds of companies are involved in the production of a certain lineup of products. Planes, very sophisticated, state-of-the-art. These companies are representing different countries, but in the end, they all end up in one product that can be used anywhere in the world and maintained quickly anywhere in the world. You have to do the same for weapons you produce. If it's a 155th caliber cannon, then here it is. And every round you produce can be used for its purpose, with this cannon. Spare parts, everything. And this is why I've been calling on the European Union and on NATO to launch a program of reaching a certain level of common market for common defense industry space. None of the national defense industries in Europe can cope with the challenge on its own. We collectively will prevail if we act as one. EU member states, candidate countries, or NATO and aspiring countries. And we are very powerful, we have the capacity. In 1944, the anti-Hitler coalition consisted of 44 countries. In 2024, the Rammstein coalition consists of 54 countries. We are much stronger, we can do that. And I see the political will to do it, but political will has to transform into action. So, common production of weapons, technical alignment, and big quantities. This is the answer. And we have to get there very quickly if we all want to win and prevent further spillover of the war.
Thank you very much. I welcome the Foreign Minister of Italy.
Sorry, I apologize. I was with the meeting with the Prime Minister of Iraq. Sorry.
It's quite all right. You'll get the floor in just a couple of minutes. So thank you for joining us and for being here. Let me turn to Prime Minister of Denmark. Having listened to Dmytro Kuleba, how are we doing in the EU? I remember, listening to your data that you just quoted, I remember we did a study some years ago that outlined that while the United States had 30 large weapon systems, the European Union collectively had something like 180 large weapon systems. No wonder that our systems are less efficient, less modern, less competitive, etc. So from your point of view, as Danish Prime Minister, how are we doing? I should note that Denmark is one of the very few countries that has now offered very modern airplanes to be delivered to Ukraine, F-15, or is it 16? F-16 airplanes. So, Madam Prime Minister, you have the floor.
Yeah, it's totally correct that our F-16s will soon be flying in the Ukraine, and we have donated our entire artillery to Ukraine, and now we really try to push everyone to deliver what you need when it comes to ammunition. And the different weapon systems we have in Europe, that's correct, but it does not explain why we are not delivering what Ukraine needs. It has nothing to do with each other. We could deliver now. We have had 2 years. And we have done a lot together, and especially a big thank to our American friends. I think our transatlantic alliance have never been stronger than what we see today. But all the things we have been able to do now for 2 years will not win the war. So to be very short, when you ask me, are we doing enough? Are we good enough? The answer is no. Because just saying there has been a war going on in Europe for 2 years is a sentence that we should not say. We should have supported you much more from the very beginning of this war, because Ukraine cannot win a war without weapons. Words are simply not enough. And I totally agree with you that Russia, they don't want peace. And the aggressive attitude from Russia is not only seen in Ukraine. We see it in Africa, we see it in Latin America, we see it when they try to destabilize Balkan. We see it in hybrid war, in disinformation, in fake news and so on. We see it even in the Arctic region now. So everywhere Russia is playing a role, they are playing a wrong role, a negative role, a spoiling role. And they don't want peace. And we have to be aware about that, because if they don't want peace, and they are now transforming themselves into a war economy, then we really have to speed up and to scale up. And no matter what will happen in US, Europe have to be able to defend ourselves. And to defend ourselves, we have to defend Ukraine, because Ukraine belongs to Europe. So I think the most important thing is for the next weeks, no more wordings. We have had several meetings. It's a nice conference, and thank you for hosting us. But we don't need any more words. We need decisions. And it's about ammunition. It's about what's going on. It's in the air. It's about air defense, and of course also long-ranging missiles. So I think that's point number one. And after that, and hopefully we'll be able to do both at the same time, we need the long-term perspective. And of course, it means more European integration. Always stick to the NATO alliance, but even though more European integration, and we need to scale up our own production. And that's why I'm happy that a country like Germany is now being, on a very practical level, opening new production lines, supported by good friends like Denmark, because we need to be concrete. But we need to protect Ukraine, and they are fighting not only for themselves, on behalf of all of us. So please deliver, everyone.
Thanks, that's really great. Thank you very much. Let me turn to you, Madam Speaker, Nancy. From an American point of view, of course, your country has been by far the single biggest supplier, the most important supporter of the war, of the Ukrainian war effort so far. But if what the Prime Minister just said comes true, and I happen to agree with that we're in for the long haul here. This is not a short-term confrontation. This is going to last certainly for the remainder of this year and maybe into next year and beyond. We don't know when this is going to end and how. So give us, I mean, you're the single most experienced expert on the House of Representatives and on the US Congress. Give us your view. How reliable do you think will be the US leadership role in this, having witnessed recent discussions in the Congress and the hesitations, certainly among the Republican caucus of the House? Give us your explanation how we should think about it, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. It's an honor to be with you and this distinguished panel. I also want to acknowledge the person who's in charge, one of the Democrats in the House, Hakeem Jeffries, who is here. You probably should direct this question to him, because I may have the most experience, but he's the most current. In any event, here's what I have to say about this. We have to get it done. So how we get it done remains to be seen. Well, we just want to vote. We have the votes in the Congress, over 300 votes for the assistance to Ukraine. The President's supplemental package is values-based. It was the full program with aid to Ukraine, to Israel, to Taiwan, to humanitarian assistance for the people in Gaza and other places, and we have to get the job done. The title, what is the title of this? Ukraine fatigue? There's no place for any fatigue in any of this. In any negotiation, speaking from my experience now as you just do not tire. You do not tire. You do not relax. You just keep fighting. For whether it is, in our case, the resources that doesn't even come close to matching the courage, the patriotism, the commitment to democracy of the people of Ukraine. I don't have to make a case to all of you for that, but I do want to say that in any negotiation we have with each other, not that this war is a negotiation, but that we have with each other, you never tire. That's just the way it is. You just keep fighting. They have to know you're not going away. And in terms of all of this, I'm very proud of what our members have done and are under leadership of President Biden want to continue to do in terms of military supplies, et cetera, humanitarian assistance, economic assistance, and the rest. But more needs to be done. And we have to, I agree completely with the Prime Minister when she says the long haul here. And the long haul, even if victory were tomorrow, Russia is not going away. So we have to gear up to win this. Victory is the only option, and then be ready for whatever they think they're doing next. What I've heard today in meetings was that Russia has more people in the military now than at the beginning of the Ukraine invasion. And they will continue to do so. And where do they get them? They buy them. They go through the countryside where people don't have very much money or resources, and they pay them more to go to war. They've used up so many people in prison. They used up people in the minority communities, and now they're going to the countryside. And they have mercenaries. And that takes me to the other point about the sanctions. We must honor the sanctions, because the sanctions give them the money to pay for this war and build their military even further. They're getting much more sophisticated in electronic battle and the rest, and they will have an endless number of people. So NATO has been the champion for the peace for now going on 75 years. We honor that, we respect that, we are grateful, all of us who care about peace, as to what has happened and us all working together on this. But fatigue is a word that we should never associate with it. Now, we talk about the civilian support. Some people will quote, let me just say this. We have a saying, I'm an appropriator. We have a saying in appropriations. The plural of anecdote is not data. Now, press will come up with, I interviewed somebody and they said, well, why are we doing that when we have all these needs at home? Yeah, we're doing it because we're protecting democracy. And that's what we have to do. And quite frankly, the war in Ukraine, instigated by the Russians, is contributing to your problems at home. The cost of oil, the cost of food, the cost of fertilizer. War has an economic impact all over. So, and if you think that you have spent money, you ain't seen nothing yet if Putin should happen to make more progress in this war. So forget fatigue. That isn't it. In our founding, I'm fond of saying, and Mr. Hakeem Jeffries is probably tired of hearing me say, but he says it too. The beginning of our republic, when we were fighting, with all due respect to the UK, when we were fighting for our independence, Thomas Paine had a saying: "The times have found us to found this country, to win this independence, to find this country," and we succeeded. Now the times have found us now. They've found us now to win this war, and to do so, remove all doubt. We need more equipment, get more equipment. We need further, we need faster, we need harder. Get it. Get it. But don't say, we have fatigue because anecdotally, and it may be a legitimate thing, people don't understand. So, and I'll just close with this. Did I say that already? Well, I'll just close again with this. Mr. Jeffries and I are fond of quoting Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln said, "Public sentiment is everything. With it, you can accomplish almost anything. Without it, practically nothing." But for public sentiment to prevail, people have to know. So we all have to make sure they know that this is about not only Ukraine's democracy, but all of our democracy, and that we are not fatiguing, or if that's a verb, we're not ever letting down on our mission, Madam Prime Minister, our mission to preserve the democracy. And remember this, even in defeat, he ain't going away. So we have to be prepared for a very long haul. Yield back.
Thank you so much. Let me turn to Robert Habeck. I've been told you need to leave a little early, so let me turn to you now. I think there's wide agreement here already that a lot more needs to be done. I was with the Prime Minister at a luncheon earlier, an hour ago, where the Prime Minister of Bulgaria said, I have some 60 or 70 T-72 tanks ready to be sent off to Ukraine, but we don't know who's going to pay for that. So I think we have not only a question of who produces what, how fast, we also have increasingly probably going forward a question, who's going to pay for this? Do we have sufficient funding? Your colleague, Defense Minister Pistorius, spoke here just half an hour ago and was asked the same question. How sustainable is our financial budgeting plan to meet the challenge if this is not just a 1 year or 2 year challenge, but a longer challenge that requires a lot more money and effort and weapons and ammunition? Minister Habeck.
Well, thank you very much. And you introduced me with saying that I was the first member of the German cabinet visiting Ukraine after the war. That was very kind of you, but not true.
Not true.
No, no, absolutely not. I was one of the last, actually, but shortly before the war, I was in Ukraine. It's the first time I visited Dmytro, or get to know him. That was in early summer 21. And I remember the young, eager, progressive cabinet. So you look different, Dmytro, that time. So sorry to say that. And then I traveled to the front line, visited the soldiers there, and they told me all the time about the shooting, about the killing, about the drone attacks. That was before the war. When we start about the war, we forget that the war started 7 years before. And I was a German politician, and I was sitting there with the soldiers, and they asked me for concrete help. And you remember this visit because I said then against the public opinion in Germany, this is a lie. We can't say they are fighting for freedom, Maidan and so on, and let them just alone. So at least we should give them some weapons. That was against the public opinion, and then a lot happened, but I'm only telling the story because at that moment in Ukraine, I had the very strong feeling that we are missing the historical moment. And maybe this is not so far from what we are now thinking or discussing here. Maybe some of you have read the title of this podium, and the title is more or less Ukraine's victory, all that it takes. All that it takes is the Draghi sentence from the financial crisis, meaning we don't let the euro collapse, all that it takes. But to be honest, we don't deliver everything. We don't do all that it takes. The phrase the leaders are using is as long as it takes. And this is a fine difference. It's not the same. To be honest, and the Ukrainians know it, of course, we are not doing all that it takes. NATO will not be part of this war. And we won't let our soldiers die at the Ukraine front. So this is not all that it takes, but at least we should do all that we can do for Ukraine. And this is what Mette just said, and this is also not true. We haven't done all that we can. Dmytro explained that there's a lack of ammunition, and we discussed the matter of 27, or not discussed, but you mentioned the matter of 27 European defense industries, not one defense industry. So, and this is both true, and this can be solved. If you think about it, and I'm Minister for Economic Affairs, this includes also the defense industry. I can give you at least 3 reasons why this is not moving forward. First, it's national pride. So in a way, some countries are very proud about their own defense industry, and they don't want to have Europe have a say in it, or other countries. Others are there more relaxed, but some are. Secondly, it's the concern that jobs are going abroad. And the defense industry has something to do with the national economy. So if they are giving money to some international funding, they want the same amount of money back. So can country E delivering 100 million euros to whatever funding, they want at least 100 euros back in the same country. And the third reason might be the hope that this Zeitenwende period is only a short disruption in normality. So sooner or later this war will be over, and why should we have such a big defense industry if this is just a period of 2 or 3 months, 3 years? So, and actually the last two things, national pride, I cannot change, but maybe there's some insight that this is not the best and last answer. But the last two things we can change. And I think the third argument is discussed here in the conference all day long. The old times are not coming back, at least not in the next month. So there is no reason to hesitate not to invest in defense industries. Actually, we should have done this 2 years ago. Why is this not working? Because, at least in the German law, it is written that defense industry needs an order. You can't produce, this is out of the experience of World War II, you can't produce 1,000 tanks and say, well, I have tanks to offer, who's interested in tanks? This is not how the system works for good reason. So someone has to give the order to produce 1,000 tanks, or allow at least the defense industry to do so. But they would only do that if someone is paying for the tanks. So, and then this is the long circumvention to your answer. The Chancellor, my Chancellor in the morning said, without security, all is nothing. He has not said, security is one interesting issue among 10 others. So if this is true, then we have to rethink everything we have had in the past 3-4 decades with the hope and the experience of everlasting peace. And if this conference leads to something, first we have to give a guarantee for ammunition production and drone production so in the next week or maybe in the next month, but not that we sit in the next Munich Security Conference next year and still nothing has happened. This is then all for nothing. And secondly, I heard that Ursula von der Leyen today said she will propose a defense commissioner in the next commission. Wonderful, that's great. Still, the question of funding is not solved, but this is the way forward. I mean, it's not so difficult to find the solution to this national pride and production attitude. We have to find the best system. Might it be a tank or a frigate or maybe artificial intelligence or drone system, and then we produce it everywhere. Then we have solved the production side. It stays in Germany, in Denmark, in Spain, whatever, but we are producing the same kind of goods. But therefore we have to organize it. But this is not rocket science. Either the 27 leaders come together, or we have a European whatever, agency or commissioner, I don't care. But we have to make a decision and then produce it. But the critical, or the point is, this was your question leading to, we have to do it now. Otherwise, this is only talk. And Mette Frederiksen is completely right. And if this conference leads to something, then to action.
Thank you very much. Thank you. By the way, we have one more speaker, and then I'll open it to your questions or comments. So prepare yourself for whatever intelligent question you may be able to ask. Minister Tajani, your turn. And I would expect you to simply comment on what's already been said and add an Italian viewpoint. But let me ask one specific question. There has been a suggestion that given the fact that there is a lot of production in relevant categories, ammunition, weapons, etc., going on in Europe, which is exported to third countries as we speak. So let me be blunt about this. Would you be ready, as far as Italy is concerned, to say, let's just create an instruction or pass a law or a regulation that says whatever export product we produce in this military category, it can go to Ukraine, but for the time being not into any other country, because we need to focus now on the Ukrainian situation. What about that?
But thank you very much But first of all, I want to underline one point, because the key point is the European defense. I totally agree with Ursula von der Leyen. If von der Leyen will propose a commissioner, a general direction for the European defense, I will be totally in favor. Why underline this point? When I was commissioner for industry many years ago, 2010, 2014, I worked hard for the European defense industry with Michel Barnier. At this time, Barnier was commissioner for internal market, me was commissioner for... I was commissioner for industry. The first point is to have an European industry, because for every country it's not easy to have a production on defense sector. We need to, for me, to do more at European level. I remember during the war in Bosnia-Herzegovina, the same tanks, Italian and German, Leopard, apparently the same, but it's the link between the tanks was impossible because the technology was completely different.
Voila.
This is a key point. If we want to back more Ukraine, we need to do more at European level. Italy is ready for supporting more Ukraine. But frankly speaking, to back Ukraine is to back at political level. This is the first point. Also today, during the G7 meeting, we underlined, the statement is ready, we are in favor of Ukraine because we are defending our values: freedom, democracy, the international law. And we want peace, but peace with justice. Justice is Russians out of Ukraine. For this to send strong messages to Russia is the first action in favor of Ukraine. To be united all together in defense of Ukraine. Second point, we need to work in favor of the reconstruction of Ukraine, because if you want to fight, we need also to have behind an energetic network for helping the army. Without energy, it's impossible to fight. It's impossible to resist. Italy today signed an agreement with Ukraine and the European Bank of Investments for 200 million euro for energy, hydroelectric energy. It's a project, Ukrainian project. To have energy is also to back the country. Reconstruction. I think when you fight, we need to live in a good context. If there are friends working for you, Italy, for example, in this moment is working for the reconstruction of the Cathedral of Odessa. This is the second point, because for the fighters of the Ukrainian soldiers, for me, it's important to know there are friends with us. We are fighting, but we are not alone. Third point is a concrete action for weapons. Italy approved the package number 8 on military support. I think that they are arriving in Ukraine in these days, and we are ready for doing more. We are ready for doing more for the defense of Ukraine, all together. The participation, the cooperation is also through information we are not fighting against Russia, but we are supporting Ukraine, the freedom of Ukraine is different. And we are ready for doing more. There are a lot of Italian soldiers close to the border between NATO and Ukraine. This is a clear message to Russia. NATO is strongly engaged in defense of the freedom everywhere, first of all in Ukraine. This to back Ukraine is also to have a lot of Italian soldiers, the Italian Air Force in the Baltic Sea, in the Baltic countries, for supporting, also for stopping the Russian aircraft. Of course, we are ready for doing more, but we are not the United States of America for the weapons. They are more rich than us. Also, thanks a lot of Italians living in America, as President Pelosi. His family is coming from Italy, of course. I am proud of this. Frankly speaking, we are ready for doing more. But, for example, we are Italy. There is a very good know-how. For example, Fincantieri is the shipbuilding sector. But I think for Ukraine, the shipbuilding is not very, very important. I think that we are working for something, for example, with France. There is something for the defense, in air defense in Ukraine. And we are ready for doing what we need to do. Great. Of course, at political level, at economic level, at military level.
Thank you very much. I'm afraid we're going to be running out of time in like 10 or 15 minutes. So I would have many more questions to ask. I want to just point out that Italy and Germany are jointly planning to also organize in the spring a Ukraine recovery conference. So maybe somebody has a question regarding that to our two ministers from Italy and Germany. But I want to open the floor for questions. And if you could please, if you ask a question, identify yourself, because I don't know everybody's face. I know this person, but you can still identify yourself. Member of the European Parliament.
Michael Gahler, standing rapporteur on Ukraine in the Parliament, and also the one who dealt with the 50 billion package which we passed, and we are happy about that. The first money will flow the first week of March. So what I think, the opportunity has been lost today, I'm afraid, when the Chancellor was there. I'm just back from a Odeon Square demonstration for Ukraine with all the democratic parties, members of parliament from European Parliament and Bundestag, calling for more support for Ukraine, including the Taurus, all of them on the Odeon Square. And I think that was a lost opportunity today. But my point is to say another way of supporting Ukraine, and that's the question. There was at the beginning of the full-scale war a suggestion to produce a European Land-Lease Act as a means to get Ukraine an easy access to available weapons. Unfortunately, this is similar to what the US did in the Second World War to support Britain. And I wonder why this idea has never been taken up. That would be a very unbureaucratic approach for an access of Ukraine to weapons. Shouldn't that be an idea also to facilitate this whole lengthy process? Thank you.
Now, this is a question addressed to the whole panel or to whom specifically?
Well, those who perhaps know economics.
Okay. Hold your breath. I think what we do, because we're running out of time so quickly, we'll take one more question and then go back to the panelists to ask. Please, the lady here in the fourth row.
Thank you for this opportunity. I'm the young leader this year, Munich conference chief editor of Ukrainska Pravda. And actually, I want to bring attention to the title. I think it's absolutely incorrect, fighting fatigue, what takes Ukraine's victory. Could you imagine the same title, for example, in 1943, during the Tehran conference, for example? No, because, for example, fighting fatigue, whatever it takes, Poland's victory or victory of Great Britain? No, of course not, because that time Allies understood the real threat for themselves. Today, Ukrainian troops left Avdiivka, the city they have defended for years, actually. And it happened not because they are not brave enough. They left because they didn't have enough ammunition. And when you don't have enough ammunition, you have to save the lives of your soldiers. Or another option, to negotiate. Negotiate with with a person who murders civilians, who kidnaps Ukrainian kids, or kills the last political prisoner.
Do me a favor and
yes,
come to a question.
And my question will be about how much time it will take to Allies to understand there is no mythical Ukraine's victory. This is a victory of democratic vote. This is important. And the second question, what else does Putin have to do to understand that the real, or the only one possible scenario to end this war is to defeat Putin's regime? Thank you.
Okay, then we'll take one more and then we'll go back to the panel for very brief responses, because we're really running out of time.
Thank you very much. My name is Ivan Krulko. I'm a member of Ukrainian Parliament. And my question is not about Congress vacation, but a very important question about future NATO summit in Washington, D.C. So one of the reasons why Putin began war against Ukraine was to block Euro-Atlantic integration of my country, of Ukraine, to NATO. And I heard today for this stage that impossible to imagine about Ukrainian integration to NATO during the war. But this position, don't you think that this position is very dangerous? Because this is clear message to Putin: don't stop war, and Ukraine never join NATO. So this is my question. Thank you.
Okay, great question. Let me go back to the panelists, and I think the easiest way is for us to start with the Prime Minister.
Either I give to Mette, that's fine with me, or I'm
we start with you. We start with you, and then you can leave, and then we'll go back this way. And the Prime Minister is going to be the last one. So.
Okay. Then I take it very brief. This is, of course, a possibility. I'm not so interested in how you arrange it, but you have to overcome the problem that the production is not coming until there's an order. So let's say all the Panzerhaubitz, for example, they are available. The ones that are available are given to Ukraine, and they have to be repaired, and they need some. But we have to give an order of, let's say, 100 or maybe 200 in the next 10 years. Otherwise, they won't build a second or a third fabrication. The ones they have, there are the orders are coming in, and then they produce, and then money is gone, and then we find another money, and then it's going on again. But there is no stability in the system. And this is the important thing. It's not about the rules, it's about actually the money. And maybe just one last thought. I heard a panel yesterday where the situation now was compared with the situation of the 1960s. So maybe the last time that the threat of a real war in Europe was really there. And compared to that, our spending, even the 2% of GDP, are not far from that money that was given there in that time. And just to remember, I'm a member of the Green Party, so I really could think of other fields where I'd like to spend the money. But I mean, listening to all the talks here, this has to say something and lead to something. So this is actually my point. We have to spend the money to produce the weapons. As long as Ukraine needs them, they give them, they get them. And when there are still some production lines not needed, then we take it. That's it. It's very simple.
Thank you very much. I know two of you need to leave. Nancy? Exactly.
Zelensky at 5 o'clock. So as he's leaving, I want to say I was pleased to hear his title for this session, which was "We have to do everything we can." My title on my piece of paper said, Ukraine fatigue, and I just reject that notion. I don't even think it rises to the level of an idea. Let me just say, I know you asked about Lend-Lease for Europe, and that's up to you. We don't want our aid to Ukraine right now to be a loan in any form. We want it to be, the money goes there. It is for the weapons, for the humanitarian, for all of that. So there are those who are suggesting, well, why don't we just keep lending the money? No, that's not what our fight is about in the U.S. In terms of the fatigue, I agree with you on all of that. I would just close by saying that we have something very emotional that happened to all of us today. Nothing compared to what happened to Navalny's family and the rest. There's so many other prisoners that Putin has. Families have not heard from them and the rest, so we don't know even if they're alive. We are dealing with very serious evil in the world, and we have to understand, in his world, we have to understand this is a fight we have to win as soon as possible and be prepared to carry on. I'll just close by saying that as I was leaving San Francisco to come here and Washington on the way, we received a card from from His Majesty, King Abdullah of Jordan. Perhaps you received it as well. It said, wishing New Year's greetings. And in the card he says, may this new year take us closer to our humanity with peace and good wishes. So I think that we're just going to have to respect differences of opinion and try to bring them to as rapid a conclusion as possible, not hasty, but fastest conclusion as possible. Understand what our responsibilities are militarily, economically, morally, with integrity, and come together and remove all doubt in anyone's mind that we will be there until the war is won and victory is achieved by the Ukrainians. And with that, I say to you, we will do everything in our power to make sure that that money comes very soon in the Congress of the United States. And it's shameful that we even have to have this discussion, but it's necessary that we get the job done. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I know you need to go next, Peter.
On NATO.
Minister, I will. I need to offer all three of the remaining speakers like 1.5 minutes, not more, if you could, because we need to liberate this
25 seconds. 25 seconds.
You have 1.5 minutes or even 2.
No, coming from the European Parliament, I know that. On NATO, I think everybody wants to have Ukraine in the European Union and in NATO. But we need to pave the way for achieving these goals. There is a candidacy as member of the European Union. We are supporting this candidacy. The first step for the full membership of Ukraine in NATO decided to have a common organization, a common work, and during every NATO meeting, there is a session for Ukraine and NATO together for the cooperation between NATO and Ukraine. But is decided to have this cooperation, to have this organization, NATO and Ukraine. And during every meeting, the last meeting has been the first meeting, the next will be in New York, and Minister Kuleba was full member of this organization. This is the first step for the full membership of NATO. The message to Russia is very clear. Ukraine will be member of the European Union, and then we are working for having Ukraine member of NATO. But frankly speaking, in this moment, to decide immediately is dangerous for everybody, because you are fighting against Russia. And for a full member of NATO is the World War III. We need to be prudent. We want to back you, but this is the rules are very clear on this. If there is an attack against a member of NATO, there is an involvement on NATO. For this, we need to be very prudent. We prefer to pave the way for the full membership after the end of the war, with a clear message to Russia: we are our friends, we are working with us, with NATO. And then I think it's possible to at political level, to send a clear message to Russia.
Thank you very much. Minister Kuleba, or Minister Kuleba, and then, Madam Prime Minister, please.
I will be very brief. Robert perfectly diagnosed the problem: national pride. National pride is what prevents the unification of European defense industries. And I would like to remind to everyone here that in 1938, Czechoslovakia had one of the best, most advanced and capable defense industries in Europe.
True.
And it didn't help, because it was alone. The reason why it was conquered, because it was left alone, and it didn't pick up the fight. So forget about national pride when it comes to defense industries. Be proud of victories on the battlefield with your weapons. Second, to those who don't want to find and spend money on the production of weapons, the era of peace in Europe is over. And every time Ukrainian soldiers withdraw from a Ukrainian town because of the lack of ammunition, think of it not only in terms of defending democracy and world-based order, but also in terms of Russian soldiers getting few kilometers closer to your towns, your homes, your families and children. And if you look at it from this perspective, you will find the money.
Thank you. Prime Minister of Denmark has the last word.
I think the biggest mistake we have made on Ukraine was to accept what Putin did back in 2014. And that was the year when this war started. So it will not pass through. And at the same time, we have to be aware of what is going on in North Korea, in Iran, and in China. And together with Russia, they are working closer and closer together. And what combines these four countries is that they disagree with us. So the challenges in front of us, they will not be less, they will be the opposite. So the conclusion has to be written now: we have to spend much more money on deterrence and defense. We have to speed up, and we have to scale up. And to answer the last question, Ukraine is a European country, and we can never allow Putin or any other to decide the borders in Europe. And we cannot let anyone outside Europe to take decisions on our infrastructure, our organization in Europe. So, of course, Ukraine belongs to the European Union. And as we said back in Vilnius last summer, Ukraine belongs to NATO.
Well, that's a great... As we like to say in German, das war ein gutes Schlusswort. That was a great concluding statement. Thank you all three, Prime Minister, two foreign ministers, and the two others who already had to leave. Great discussion. Thank you very much, and come again next year.
Thank you.